Mystery, you ready? You guys ready? Ready on the left? Ready on the right? All ready on the fire line. You ready, Mike? Ready? Miss Greeby? You ready? Miss Greeby, you ready? Ready? We'll let the record show it's about 4 minutes after 6. I'll call to order the regular City Council meeting of November the 14th, 2017. Call upon our good friend James Dalton to lead us in an invocation. And if you would, to please stand, followed by the flag salute by Councilman Mike Dills.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the day. We thank you for our health, the ability to be about. Father, we thank you for the breath of life you give us. We thank you for the beauty of the day we had today, Father. We just pray tonight as we do the city's business, Father, to be civil. We do what's best for everyone within the city, Father. So we just pray that we be with those who are here. We pray that we be with our families tonight as well. And again, we thank you for the country we live in, Father. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Face the flag, please. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Be seated, please. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Here.
Councilmember Clooney. Here. Councilmember Dills.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock.
Here.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Here, for the record, all council members are present. We have a full body and a quorum. Appreciate everyone being here. Our first order of business this evening, we'll take up with the consent docket. We have items 1A through J, with I having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 subtitles. Are there any items to consider or to be removed from the consent docket for consideration under agenda item number 2? I see Becca. Is Becca out there?
Yes.
Okay. I think just for the matter of, for the record and clarification, I'll pull item number I, 1 through 5, and I think you have maybe just a little definition of that for us and for the audience maybe. Are there any others?
I have a question.
It's out of order, Mr. Bachman. I'm sorry.
Item F, consider approval of entering into a professional services agreement with Institute for Building Technology.
That's not even on the, we're not
What
even
is that
there.
all about?
We're not even there yet.
Am I,
We're on the,
I skipped the page, I apologize.
Okay.
But I'll get to it.
do we have a motion for the consent docket?
Motion to approve the remainder.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Questions? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Clooney.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. And we're trying something a little different tonight. Can you in the audience in the back, can everyone hear me okay? Okay, thank you. Okay, that takes us to item number 2, which would be I. And probably city councilor, city attorney, we need to consider those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 individually.
Separately, yes.
Okay.
Since they've been pulled off of the consent docket, they need to be considered separately.
Okay. Becca?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and council members. To bring everyone up to speed, especially the audience, this is a grant that was awarded to the city in 2014 to complete our transportation enhancements around our downtown area, the sidewalks and ADA accessibility. Improvements will be from Main Street along the east side of 4th, coming around that corner all the way down the south side of Evergreen. It will also be on the north side of Evergreen in front of City Hall, making the corner where the mailboxes are right now, going up to the ramp that enters the city. Back in June, the easements were presented to the council for approval. However, there was only one easement that was uploaded into the council packet. So to make sure that we have everything in order and the grant information included, I wanted to bring these back to you for approval. All 4 of the property owners have donated the easements, given temporary easements for the construction, and you have all 4 of those easement documents in your packet.
Any questions for Ms. Becca? If not, entertain a motion for 2I1.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Consider a motion for item I2, or 2I2.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Consider a motion for item 2I3.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Consider a motion for item 2I4.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. And item 2I5.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Becca, for the kind of the FYI there.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Pardon me?
Yeah, if I may, just briefly, as the council moves into agenda item number 3, might remind the public that only under agenda item number 4, public hearings, and number 6, public comments for non-agenda items. Is there any public comment?
Okay.
That's to stay in compliance with the Open Meetings Act and the posted agenda.
Okay. Thank you, Counselor. If there are no objections from council members, I think we have some folks, city managers, going to introduce that have traveled and I think have to travel a distance, maybe further this evening. But if there are no objections, would like to go to information items, item number 5 on our agenda. Is that right? Yep. And 5R is the agenda item report, and I'll just let the city manager introduce this topic.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Tonight, before you, we have a report. This is for information only. We have 2 gentlemen from Sports Facility Management. They're on a little bit of a schedule. They have to fly back after tonight's meeting, and I told them we would try to get them as early on the agenda as we can. As all of you know, we did an assessment a few months ago with the Durant Multisports Complex. There's been a lot of inquiries as far as trying to get the complex, I don't want to say profitable, but at least at a break-even point. Currently, the sports complex is losing approximately $400,000 a year in operations, and the lion's share of that comes straight out of our utility authority. It's been a goal and objective of mine since arriving is to figure out a way to make the sports complex, again, not so much a big profitable business, but something that's going to present a quality of life for our citizens and the folks that come to visit us. Tonight before you is two gentlemen, Jason Clements and Jack Adams, and they're going to present a brief presentation on their findings based on their doing the analysis as in person. They came back here, I believe, in September and did some other analysis between now and then, and have agreed to come out and present their findings.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, council members, we appreciate the opportunity to be here and present these findings to you. We've turned this television here in the hopes that you can see the presentation. We've got 15 minutes here to share with you our findings, and we will do our best to move through this efficiently as we can, given the agenda that you have in front of you. My name is Jason Clement. I'm the CEO and founding partner for Sports Facilities Management. I'm accompanied by Jack Adams, who's our Regional Vice President over the South and Central United States. And we'll hear more from him as well in terms of his operational background and prowess. Here's what we're going to cover in our 15 minutes. An introduction to our firm, who we are and what we do, a brief overview of the industry, the youth travel sports industry, and then right into our analysis, our findings, and our recommendations as a result of reviewing and analyzing the sports complex. Finally, we'll wrap with a conclusion and answer any questions that you might have. Is there anything you'd like us to cover that may not be in this agenda? All right, let's get to it. So a little bit about us. We were founded in 2003. Over that time period, we've served over 1,000 clients, municipalities or private developers. We've evaluated over $8 billion in planned assets, planned and opened assets and venues across the country. And last year, the venues that we manage hosted over 20 million visits. We have experience in private developments, public developments, and private-public partnerships as well. Our mission is to improve the health and the economic vitality of the communities we serve. I want to make this point that it's not a mission statement we just put on the wall or on our website. This is something we live out. We truly are passionate about the health and the economic vitality of the communities we serve. We break that mission statement down by, obviously, health, the mental, athletic, social, and spiritual health that sport can provide. And we recognize that it's tough to provide that type of mission if you don't have a sustainable operation as well. So the economic vitality is just as important as the healthy benefit of sports assets within our communities. What we do is we provide strategic planning, funding, opening services, and then we'll outsource, manage, or provide advisory management consulting to complexes, again, around the country. We are blessed to represent a diverse team of individuals who come from sophisticated business models, just not in the youth and amateur space. But if you think about Walt Disney World, Marriott, Jack was instrumental in rolling out the House of Blues a number of years ago when that brand was rolled out across the country. Wide World of Sports, ESPN Wide World of Sports, Live Nation, YMCA, and beyond. These team members, the majority of them have had a hand in reviewing and evaluating the operation here in Durant, and again, we're blessed to be able to represent them and the findings here today with you all. We manage a number of sports complexes across the country. I invite you to take a look at any of these. Again, these are private-public partnerships. The majority of these are public, and their goal is to generate economic impact while providing a great amenity to their community as well. We'll roll through this in the interest of the 15 minutes. So why sport matters? Why a healthy, sustainable operation within our sports assets? Why does it matter? What this swoosh or the punchline to this slide says is that kids and parents, society benefit in every measurable way from active kids who become active adults, who then, from a cyclical standpoint, create more active kids, if you will. This study was done by the Robert Woods Foundation, and I don't know if you can read it or not, but the stats around obesity, higher test scores, higher earnings, all relate to more active kids, which is why these sports assets matter. In terms of obesity, the United States is at the top of every country in our peers, and sports has a large impact in that. The current trend is not positive, however. Majority of kids, or at least in traditional team sports, are playing less. Almost 3 million fewer kids are playing sports, and as the previous slide demonstrated, we think that's problematic. There are reasons for this. One is that it's more expensive to play than ever. This transformation in the youth and amateur space to travel sports is leaving some kids behind because it's just more expensive to play. That's why the local programming is just as important as ever. While some of the more affluent kids can go play, or the kids that at a younger age may have a higher ability level, those that are left behind who maybe just haven't developed as quickly or are less affluent need places to play, which is why complexes beyond just the travel destinations are really important. But this industry is in transformation. Just recently, Time Magazine, this is last month's cover of Time Magazine, maybe 2 months ago, titled How Kids Sports Turned Pro, estimated that this industry is a $15 billion industry. It's a big business now. The Sports Business Journal, which traditionally talks about professional sports and that economy, are now focusing on the youth and amateur sports space because so much money is being spent on this travel ball. Just recently, our firm, my business partner, Dev Patik, it's his good-looking mugshot there, was highlighted in HBO Real Sports as a result of kind of this trend and this transformation. Mainstream media, between Forbes, Time Magazine, and others, are picking up, Fortune, are picking up the impact that this is making on the economy. Sorry for the formatting here. But where's the majority of this money being spent in youth and amateur sports? On travel. $6.5 billion of the 15 is focused on travel. Hotel, motel, airfare, bus, those sorts of items, as you can see. So we're here today in part to evaluate the operation that you presently have, but also identify the opportunity that exists in the city of Durant. We are blessed to have worked with 1,000 communities, as I shared earlier. Not many have the assets that you have here in Durant in terms of creating a destination. You've got some great lodging options. There's a spectrum of them in terms of the diversity from high-end down to more affordable. And that is a great opportunity, as well as other activities for kids and families to participate in if they were coming here to travel. So we see this as an important piece in terms of figuring out how a slice of this pie can come to the city from tournaments, showcases, and travel events as well. What this shows is that in 2015, between 2020 roughly, we're going to see a doubling of what's happening in terms of sports travel and the spending that's taking place in that. So again, a lot of communities are trying to figure out how they position themselves to take a piece of that pie because the spending is going to occur. When the Great Recession occurred, the sports travel industry was one of the only industries that did not quarter over quarter decline because most families are not cutting their spending on kids' activities. So this phrase coined the tournication, this blending of a tournament and a vacation is occurring right now, and that's how families are choosing to spend their resources and money. Long story short, we track different key performance indicators, revenue per square foot, revenue per field. We'll talk about that a little bit more as it relates to the profit and loss within the operation itself. We just talked a little bit about the economic impact, and most of these stats we're talking about are relative to how do we drive as much bottom line performance to the existing operation within the sports complex that you have. So ancillary revenue, food and beverage, advertising, sponsorships, camps, clinics, parties, youth development programs are all really important ingredients to the recipe of sustainability that the city manager was referring to recently. I'm going to skip through this. These are some examples of optimization, which are all within your packet as well that we handed out. What's important, and whether we're involved or not, what's important to a successful operation is that you have a healthy blend of the marketing and the business development components that go along with selling these tournaments and events, along with healthy local programming, leagues, camps, and clinics to serve the community and the existing population, having an eye on risk management and proper accounting and finance, in addition to treating the employees, the team members within the city well, so that we have low turnover and that we're providing the best service possible to our guests within the city and our guests from out of town as well. Critically important because we want it to be a healthy experience. That's how we drive that active participation that truly makes an impact in families' lives. So here's the methodology to success that we applied and are applying to the Durant Sports Complex here. First is an understanding from our perspective of what's the definition of success, both the mission, qualitatively, and the margin, quantitatively. If the goal is to get closer to sustainability, cash flow neutral, we need to know that so we can look at the programming and the spending decisions that take place in order to drive that result from a margin standpoint, all with an eye on what the mission qualitatively looks like. From there, we assess the mission, the financial benchmarks, the facilities, the programs, and that is what we're here to report on tonight. This is the exact stage that we're in. The next step that we recommend that the city should take, again, whether with or without us, is developing a strategic plan then, a 3 to 5 year plan to take the necessary steps forward to arrive at that financial sustainability and driving as much economic impact as possible. Then it's about executing on that strategic plan and then finally measuring performance from a key performance indicator standpoint. And we like to measure that based on both, again, the mission and the margin. So that's the process, big picture process. Now as it relates to our findings and recommendations specifically to the complex here, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Adams.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So if you'll follow along on page 6 of your report, if you are interested in some of these details. If not, I'll just speak at a high level again in the interest of time. So the first thing that we noticed was that the revenue, the 4-year average, is below what the industry will normally see in a complex like this. Concessions is at 69% of your total income, so concessions is healthy, it's doing well, but as a percentage, it should be a percentage of a higher number. So normally that number is around 11%, which demonstrates both the success of the concessions program and also the deficit in the rental and gate revenue of the park itself. And there's no recorded sponsorship or advertising revenue. It's normally 2% as well. So those are just some high-level pieces of the revenue analysis. There's a full report with more detail. On the expense side, personnel were 68%. That's a very high percentage of income. And once again, this partially is because of the revenue being a lower number that could have accounted for that. Operating supplies at 20% is high. That's normally closer to 8 to sometimes 12. Utilities and the insurance expense were within the industry benchmarks. Those were two expenses that have been maintained well. And 33% cost recovery, which is, I think, what the city manager was referring to earlier, is wanting to see this something that needs to improve. Most of this, 100% cost recovery, we do believe that's possible within the context of both your programming and the events and tour and travel revenue. So considering both of those, that's an achievable goal. Again, apologies for the formatting. This was, I promise, centered. If you would look at page 13 to the extent that you want to see that detail now. I'm actually just going to walk you through that page, but for the folks in the crowd, you have that high-level overview to look up at on the screen.
It's the summary report that looks like this.
So the recommendations are, first, on the financial side, we want to recommend that you establish a clear KPI system. Key performance indicators, things that you track like a scoreboard, things that are simple, things that everybody can get their arms around, that we know what the goal is and we know where we're performing to that goal. And those are around financial, sales, operational goals, and programming. We recommend accountability to those indicators and a compensation plan for team members around those indicators, particularly around revenue generation. We recommended a change in the organizational structure. This was not a code for downsizing. The current services provided at the park are high. The maintenance is high. The quality of the parks is good. When you go out there, you'll find a very strong and healthy experience. There's not a pricing scaled to that experience. So for example, if you were to treat the fields and care for the fields in the middle of a tournament, normally that's something you would charge a little more for. So we're charging one price and giving everything. So there's a reason for, let's say somebody has an inexpensive rental for their game. It's not $8 a game, it's $20 a game, or $30 a game. With that, they're getting full service for everything. So we're not scaling our pricing to what we serve, whether or not we're on or off peak, or any of the other things we can do to manage pricing, seasonality, any of those things. So we also recommend that you invest in marketing, promoting, and advertising and sales. There's a pretty big team out there to care for the facility itself, the physical structure, so that accounts for why it's in such good shape. And there was not a big group, a sophisticated effort working on developing a website, developing an advertising program, branding the park, being out in the Dallas market, being out in the places that you're trying to drive people from. Jason, do you have some examples, or can you refer to some examples in the marketing and advertising?
Yeah, be happy to. So within your packet, actually, I think it was on the left side, you'll see some examples of marketing action plan. Certainly in the time we have allotted here, it's not worth going through that. But you see some examples of some different marketing strategies that we would choose to look at. Digital marketing strategies for social media as well as web traffic and other things that take the current state of the park, which is good, again, physically, and make a similar digital online presence. Because somebody who's looking to go play in a tournament or an event, I mean, we all go to Google to search for things, right? And Durant isn't showing up in that manner. So, and really all of those sports complexes that we shared early on, I think you can go to any of those websites and probably get a good example for what the digital footprint needs to look like. And then it's about building relationships with different tournament providers and others, which you've started here for sure, that you can expand on and enhance as well. I don't know if that was what you hoped for.
That's perfect. And so they're just some examples of some of the kinds of things that you can build in your packet, and we recommend that we take business development seriously. That's where the hole in the boat is. That's where we want to drive the revenue. A lot of these costs are going to automatically fall into line. So we kind of went into business development there a little bit, but search engine optimization, there's a piece of that study that just, and you can do this on your own, just go to Google and look up things that are not very specifically going to take you right to the sports complex, but search for summer camps. And if the complex isn't coming up as a top option, then anybody who's not directly familiar and already one of your customers may not be aware of the programs and offerings, no matter how good they are, outside of word of mouth, just through your presence on the web, as an example. There's an opportunity with signage. There's an opportunity with branding, with telling the story of the park and the story of the great service and programming, which is all we heard, was that programming was great. The people out there delivering were great. The services, the quality of coaching, the quality of sports were great. So it's not a product problem. It's a pricing, marketing and branding, sales, positioning problem. So we've got a little slide here following this on economic impact. This is an example of part of what you're trying to tackle when you're trying to tackle that $400,000 deficit can be achieved through some of the new revenues to the city. So one of the things we're going to talk about is what programming does. There's a reason somebody rents the park. If they rent the park, they make a profit for their program, their organization. If we do, in Durant, that program internally, of course, that revenue is going to all come to the park and sustain the park. So we want to make sure that our pricing for renters is in line with what we could do with the opportunity cost with the city itself administering those programs. This is an example of something that's not internal programming, but designed not necessarily to be profitable, but to drive in people from out of town to come spend money in these ways. This is not a Durant breakdown, but this is another city, an example from another city. The breakdown, these are the types of taxes and revenues that the city recognizes based on $3.4 million of economic impact, which is well within the reach of the assets that you have. So just I kind of got ahead of myself a little bit with program mix, but there are a few reasons that we recommend that Durant own the programming. One, you have greater ownership of that program. You can manage the quality. When people have an experience at the park, they're going to think about Durant and the city anyhow. They're going to think about your management of the park anyhow. This is a chance for you to control that experience, make sure that it's at the level that you would envision and the people who originally wanted to build this park for our community would have envisioned. We're going to control the customer experience better. We talked about the financial returns. When you have those users, you are able to capture them in a database. So now you're able to market to them for everything that you're putting on, both elsewhere in the city, but also, of course, at the park. If you have a young person sign a waiver, you have their birthday. You're able to talk to them about their birthday party, for example. So you're able to get them back again and again. You're also able to maximize scheduling. So if you can imagine everybody in the world wants between 6 and 8 p.m. If we price 6 and 8 p.m. one way, but less aggressively price beyond 8 p.m. before 6 p.m., we can control that. If we just have user groups come in and rent and they take that space, there's nothing else to rent. Or if we try to run our own programs or products outside of that time, of course, we're going to be less successful than our renters. And that, from a bottom line perspective, isn't helping. So on the physical facility side, we recommend some operating software. That will help you measure your KPIs. Something a little bit more sophisticated, built towards sports. These things don't have to be expensive, but they're going to help you measure things like your price per field, your revenue per customer, the age of your customers, the type of sports that you're running, manage your leagues and scheduling more effectively. We recommend, hop on to the next one. We recommend this following I guess, sort of summary opportunity. We believe that Durant is a place where you have a casino, you have a lake, you have the places to stay, you have the quality programs. As a collective, we have indoor and outdoor assets. We have a school and a college and multiple fields. There's lots of stakeholders who would benefit from that economic impact and, of course, the quality programming locally. A lot of people. Collectively, the asset that you have is a destination. People are coming up here all the time to Durant to go play in the casino, but they're not then bringing their kids. They're expecting their kids to drive down to Texas and play because there's so much more. There's a center of gravity around sports there. And they would come here for an experience that we can tell them about, that we can describe to them, they can come up here and have as a complete experience. So what we recommend is that there is some collaboration, that the stakeholders and all those different sports assets come together, decide as a group how and what to contribute to this sports district. I'm using that term very loosely. You can brand it a lot of different ways. But to a collective, set that vision, quantify it in a strategic plan. That's a pro forma. Pro forma is not a budget. It's just a financial what's possible. Decide if that what's possible is worth what you're going to spend on it, or in terms of energy and in capital, and then set a timeline for execution. Once we have that, let's make a commitment to the community. Let's, in whatever way that we communicate to the community best, make sure that everyone is buying in on it. We understood from our study that there was some differences in the community about what the park was for. If as a community all these stakeholders come together and have some agreement, some of that dynamic tension won't have to be there. It'll be Durant working for Durant together, and brand that commitment. So if that commitment is, very loosely again, a sports district that we're going to have, then we talk about the sports district. What is the name of it? How does it feel? How does the website represent it? What are all the different activities? And then every one of those stakeholders knows what they're going to get out of it and what they're going to give to it, and they've made a commitment to the other stakeholders. And then there's just the execution and performance of that at a very high level.
Yeah, so I'll summarize with this. There are some assets here for sure. And as long as we can tap into what's happening in the sports tourism industry here, we shouldn't have to increase the cost of play for local folks here. And I'm using we here because we're all part of the same team. But if we can tap into what this tournament and travel industry has to offer, which is good for Durant, for all of our partners here, we should be able to drive an economic impact that then allows us to also scholarship kids locally who may not be able to play. We should be able to build a consortium of people and business leaders within the community that have a vested impact, they're stakeholders in making this work. So we're excited about the assets that you all have here, the amenities to make this work, but it is going to take that level of collaboration that Jack was referring to. But you certainly have the physical assets in terms of the complex that is there. So thanks for the opportunity to come in and present. I think we went a little bit over time, but we're here for any questions that you might have, and we can certainly follow up as well.
Tim, do you have any?
At this time, don't have anything specifically, but I will have some follow-up with these gentlemen, and they will probably be in touch with us on the next step as what our next step is approach as far as whether we go forward with the model that was presented tonight or go a different direction. And I would like to add that they had just mentioned earlier, the model that they are putting up and they went over tonight doesn't include taking away any of our employees that are currently out there. Those employees know the fields, they're assets to the community, we respect that. What we're looking at is approach, and real quickly I'll tell you, Midwest City owned the Sheraton Hotel, still does. It's a huge asset for the city. We got into a dispute with the contractor, with the company that was managing the hotel, and we decided it would be best if the city ran the hotel ourselves. That was a huge mistake. Huge mistake. It lasted about a little over a year, and we went back and found a professional service agreement with the contractor with doing it, because cities aren't in the business of running hotels and bars and restaurants. And sometimes there are services out there that are obvious, and that's something that I think we need to take a strong look at too, not just only for the profitability, but for the sustainability. Because at the level we're at right now, we have a great asset in our community. Unfortunately, we're spending millions of dollars in operations and not being able to recoup those, and it's taking a toll on our infrastructure, and that's where the money needs to stay. So I appreciate you coming tonight, and I don't have any further questions.
Well, on behalf of the council.
I'd like to ask, could I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Thank you, and you've got a beautiful smile, but I'd like to ask, what we're talking about is privatization. You guys have presented a report, and the next step, if we follow it, would be privatization with you running our multi-sport complex. Am I correct?
Not necessarily. There are a number of ways that you could go here. A lot of the recommendations within the report you could implement on your own if the city chose to continue to manage the asset. Our management philosophy is that we're stewards of cities, communities' assets. So whether it's the bank account, it's the city's bank account, we're just managing it on the city's behalf. So what we would do is take registration and sign up. We would let that operating software drive it into the city's bank account. Full transparent. Our model is it's full transparency to anybody within the city leadership that would want to see it, whether that's the treasurer or accountant, city manager. And so it's really not, it could be privatization. We do that in some instances, but the majority of the time, we're just managing as good stewards the city's assets.
I'm not going to say anything else because you lost me on that last part.
Okay.
So thank you.
Happy to elaborate later if that's helpful. Yeah.
Well, I want to, on behalf of the council too, thank you guys and Tim for the time and effort that's already been put into this. I know that our vice mayor has a real high, and all the council members have a real interest in our parks and recreation and what we can provide as far as quality of life, parks and recreation to our citizens. We're about 10 years, I think, into our municipal park out there, our complex. Mm-hmm. Voted on by the citizens, and we have, obviously we've struggled in getting to optimum management and the potential uses that are available out of that, the camps, a lot of the things you just mentioned. But I think as we begin to explore this possibility that we just need to remain open and optimistic, and hopefully we can take it to the level that for 10 years we've been trying to get to. Do you agree, Vice Mayor?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Well said. Thank you.
any comments, other comments from council members? Thank you so much. We look
Thank you.
forward to a continued relationship.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Safe travel.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no objections, then we will pick back up on the regular agenda. There weren't any other items to be considered, were there? Okay. Which would be item number 3 on our agenda under administration, if you're following along. First order of business 3A, consider approval of a request of authorization to purchase materials to repair the drainage on North 10th and Beach in the amount of $40,000, RFAP number 2018-080. James, you beat me up here. Let's go. You wanna-
Afternoon, Mayor.
Thank you.
Council, City Manager. What this is, at 10th and Beach, we have an underground drainage. Show some pictures here. You can kind of see what we're looking at. The whole bottom's out of it. As far as we can tell, about 320 feet. When we get into it, it may be more than that, so that's why the RFAP was for 40,000, so we don't have to stop in midstream and come back. So the estimate I did is around 18 to 20, but we're hoping that that's all we have to do. But when we get in there, we couldn't get in the other 300 feet. There's actually a 700 feet stretch there that we couldn't get in the other 300 feet to check it out.
So you're kind of looking at the worst case scenario with the
Yes, sir.
40.
Yes, sir. I'm hoping for the best, but it's been in there. I've been here 32 years, and it was there when I came, so it's been in there a long time. So we actually put in with another drainage system that we added to. We put in a concrete one on the inside of it, so this is kind of the overflow to keep all the flooding down. It runs all the way up to Washington, but this in here, I think, dead ends right there at 12th.
Did I read too, doesn't that include some curb and gutter and?
Yeah, it's setting, curb and gutter and sidewalk setting right on top of it, so it's, to get it out, it's gonna have to come out. There's some utility poles. I looked at doing a concrete multiple pipe, but to get all that in there, we couldn't get it all in there, so we're just gonna go back with the metal, and it should last another 30 years, so that's how long that's been in there or longer, so I always like to change out with something that's gonna last forever, but in this case, I don't think we could fit it in there.
Any questions from council members to James on item 3A? Not consider a motion.
Move to approve 3A.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Dooley,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 3B, which has a 1 and a 2. Consider award of bid and authorization for the mayor to execute quitclaim deed for real estate parcel on Roadrunner Drive. B1, consider award of bid for the real estate parcel Roadrunner Drive. Tim, or is it? Marty. Is Marty? I think council this information was provided some few meetings ago, and we approved the going out for bid on the sale of the property.
That's correct. That's correct, and I'll apologize. I thought Cindy was going to do it. That's okay. It's a piece of property that we have on Roadrunner Drive that was kind of a worthless piece to the city. We deemed it excess in a council meeting a few months ago and put it out for bid. We did have one bidder to bid on the property, and we're just looking to award that bid at this time. The two different, so we're going to award the bid and authorize the mayor to execute. So.
Item 3B.
If I could-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and if you have any questions about the location, I think we went over it once before.
Yeah.
If you can't remember, I can help you figure that out.
3B1 is to consider the award of the bid for the real estate parcel on Roadrunner Drive. Are we ready for a motion?
We
Consider
need
a
to do
motion.
these separately.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve B1.
Second.
Motion and a second for 3B1. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Foote,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. 3B2.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second on 3B2. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Foote,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Takes us to item 3C. Excuse me. Consider approval of memorandum of understanding between the City of Durant and the Durant Fraternal Order of Police Lodge Number 113 for fiscal year, or FY 17-18. City Manager?
Mayor, Council, tonight before you is the MOU for the FOP with their third year on their contract. We're in discussions for the fiscal year 17-18, which was the third year. The parties have come together and agreed to waive the agreed upon 3% raise, which was agreed upon 3 years ago. And due to the financial strain that the city has taken over the past, especially the past 6 to 8 months, the FOP has graciously agreed to waive that as long as the rest of the terms of the agreement are in place, which allows for their members to still get their step increases and the other incentive pays that are within the CBA itself.
Your recommendation to approve the memorandum?
Yes.
Heard the City Manager's recommendation. Do we have any questions, comments? If not, consider a motion.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Foote,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 3D, consider approval resolution 2017-27, earmarking funds from the OMAG recognition program to improve communications and transparency. And I'm sorry, I'm not up on, who was going to?
This was brought forward by Vice Mayor Hitchcock after we had our OMAG recognition program a couple months ago with the municipal officials training. As a result, this was in the paper and a few other media outlets. The city received a $10,000 check from Oklahoma Municipal Assurance Group, which is essentially for participating in the program, which lasted approximately 2 hours. They feel very strongly about this program and with working with the elected officials on setting forth a set of standards. After talking to Vice Mayor Hitchcock, there was an idea brought forward to take, if this program is available for us each year to do. So it's a 2-hour class for the council, and $10,000 in order to fulfill that is to earmark those funds to improve the communications between the citizens and the council and the transparency. So we talked about utilizing the earmarking of the funds to improve the live streaming, adding cameras, improving the audio in here, trying to make it available to where more citizens can have that ability. Things within our website, things on social media that will allow more transparency between the city and the citizens.
Good idea, Vice Mayor.
See, that's why I let him talk. He's really good at articulating all that.
Any questions from council members regarding 3D, Resolution 2017-27?
Tim, do we have live streaming now?
Yes.
Tonight?
Oh, yes. Yes. And staff is working really hard. We have our own YouTube channel now where you can go back and review the previous council meetings on YouTube, which is very helpful too. So, and we're hoping to enhance that with, like I said, better cameras and equipment in here, and also some of the monitors. It's a little frustrating as council and myself when we have presentations and we can't really see what's on the deal. So this will make it a little bit easier. We've got some staff's got some ideas on improving that too.
Any further discussion or comments, questions? Entertain a motion for 3D.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, item 3E is to consider approval of ordinance 1839 to, keyword here, renew the city's cable franchise agreement with Vive Broadband. And I think city manager and city attorney, Mr. Markham, will have some comments.
Yeah, I'll just open it up by saying the city was approached a few months ago by Vive Broadband on renewing our franchise. Currently, we're under a 10-year contract with Vive that expires in December. What you have before you is a consideration for a 15-year term with the franchise agreement that will bring in approximate revenue of about $84,000 a year, which would generate about $1.26 million over the span of the agreement itself. And this is a standard franchise agreement, and I believe City Attorney Markham has some points of clarification on one part of the attachments.
Thank you, City Manager. Just very briefly, there's a portion of this that probably needs to be changed, and we can do it by amendment to the attached Schedule 1. But there was an attached Schedule 1 to the agreement, the proposed agreement, that really reflected just a continuation of the previous agreement. But due to some FCC rule changes, it probably needs to be changed. In the previous agreement, there was a list of locations. Most of them were city locations. Some of them were various other locations. The Highway Patrol building, I think there was a church on the list. And it really didn't matter what was on the list to the city because the cable company provided to those locations service free of charge to the city. Because of some of the FCC rule changes, that doesn't happen anymore, and so each of the locations to which service is provided, the city would pay either through payment directly to the cable company or through a deduction of the franchise fee. So it's in the city's best interest that those buildings be taken off of the list, and that our Schedule 1 should essentially say none. If we want to go ahead and reference Schedule 1, just say none. And then each of the buildings that the city wishes to have service in would be communicated to the franchisee, and they would provide service to that pursuant to the remaining terms of the contract. So I think it probably needs to be clarified that the city is not paying for service to non-city owned locations. And Jeff might be able to speak more about that.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me. My name is Jeff Beck. I'm here on behalf of Vive Broadband, a representative, to speak to or take questions or comments or anything about the franchise this evening. So we were talking about the list. So the list was probably a little over-inclusive. It was all the things that were considered in our billing system as city government, things like that, and they're in and around the service area. So. As Mr. Markham was talking about, we did the best way to handle that. Well, we'd like to do that as well, to keep it clean, keep it easy, keep it more straightforward. Just have the exhibit just say none, and then just do the transactions separate from the reduction in franchise fees and things like that. So, standard practice now with the with the FCC's rules that went in place. I think it was 2015. So, all those goods and services and things like that are now included in the franchise fee cap. So
So, City Attorney, if I'm to understand, the Schedule 1 is the last, but by the way, on the computer thing here, it's the last, very last page to refer to. Our motion, if indeed we are considering approval to renew, but the Schedule 1 as a whole or selectively, should we correct that or amend that?
Propose, I would suggest adopting the proposed agreement by amending Schedule 1 by striking all of the locations on the proposed Schedule 1 and substituting the word none. Probably be the easiest, since Schedule 1 is referenced in the agreement.
Okay.
I have an example here that if you'd like to see, if I approach
Okay.
the.
Show Tom.
He's
Okay.
he's got a
Okay.
copy, so.
Well, I just think if indeed we have a motion to renew that, we'd be clear in the motion so that the clerk and everyone is clear on what we voted on. Does that make sense? Do we have a motion, or is there any further discussion, questions? Destri's got it, all right.
Thank God for Destry.
Motion to approve ordinance 1839, amending Schedule 1, striking all locations and substituting with none.
Is there an emergency clause? No? Trying to see if,
There is not an emergency clause per se. It does go into effect the date of acceptance by the grantee, but there's not an emergency clause that would require a separate vote.
okay, sorry. So we have a motion, and did we have a second? And a second, by Councilman Deals. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Ruby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Now, we just voted to just amend, or do we actually approve the whole thing? Good. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Laptop's going a little slow here. Okay. All right. Item 3F under administration. Consider approval of entering into a professional services agreement with Institute for Building Technology and Safety for Community Development Services. City Manager Tim Rundle.
Mayor and Council, before you tonight is a professional services agreement with the Institute for Building Technology and Safety for Community. We have some representatives here if they'd like to make their way up to the podium. As I stated in my memorandum, we've had some changes within the organization that currently provide us an opportunity to look at some professional services within our community development department. We have, since the last month or so, Marty Pope, who was one of our inspectors, has now moved over to the Parks and Rec Director as well as over General Services. And Marty Cook is going to be our Public Works Director. So we have two positions within that department. As the council knows, and as well as with the citizens, it's been known we've been discussing for quite some time entering into a partnership with IBTS. However, before you tonight is not what was presented earlier between the council and the folks at IBTS. If you think of it in these terms, the city hires a city attorney with a professional services agreement. We hire a city engineer. You hire a city manager with an employment agreement. This is a professional services that is we desperately need here within our community. Our comprehensive master plan has not been updated since 2002. And we currently have the opportunity to bring somebody on board that can get us up to date on our comprehensive plan, as well as working with our planning and zoning officials, bringing in a building official that is state certified, and making some enhancements. There's been a lot of discussion. Are we looking at privatizing the department? The answer is no. What you see before you tonight is a professional service agreement for 2 individuals within that department. The other 2 employees, our GIS coordinator, our code enforcement, they're still city employees. They will still remain city employees. There is no agreement here to privatize or take away anybody's jobs. The individuals that are currently doing the jobs are actually been doing 2 jobs for the last couple of months and juggling that. And I think, again, this is going to enhance our abilities to provide a professional level of service and have a city planner. The young man that's here tonight, Matt, and would come in if agreed upon tonight as our new city planner. Matt has a master's degree from the University of Georgia. We won't hold that against you. But from the University of Georgia in planning and environmental design. He has quite the credentials. He's already assisted other cities in updating their comprehensive plan. Matt has agreed, if the council decides tonight, Matt is going to relocate to our city. That's how strongly he feels about coming to work here. And I think we need to welcome him with open arms. What you see before you tonight, though, is an agreement between the city and IBTS for just those services alone. That's all that's on the table here tonight before you, is a professional services agreement for our community development services and our building department. And I'd be glad to entertain any questions. Also, we have tonight here is the Oklahoma manager with IBTS, Mike Manier, and he'll be glad to answer any questions as well.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
When the last time we met, or that I met with you guys, and I believe you were there, I was told, or we decided that we would have a dinner for the employees and their spouses to explain what was happening so it wouldn't be such a shock. I don't think this ever happened.
There was never, that was if there was going to be moving forward with the agreement for the entire Public Works Division. That decision has not been pushed forward.
So you would be our new community development guy, or would you?
Yes, and your city planner.
And our city planner. And where are you from?
So I'm originally from, hi everyone. My name is Matt Narstead, and I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. And it would be an honor and a privilege to serve as your city planner, to provide a document that's, that has an incredible amount of public engagement and public process to become your 20-year vision that will allow your city to prepare for new developments, have a future land use plan. State and federal grants will be open to you because of that document, and it would be an honor to help you all provide that.
My only concern is we can't find anybody in our wonderful city of Durant to fill these positions. No offense to you at all. With the university right here at our back door and graduates coming out and having to leave the city because they can't find jobs, and we can't place them in jobs here. And Tim, I read this contract, or I tried to, and had to ask an attorney to explain part of it. There was a couple of things that I didn't understand, like what does...
You asked our attorney?
Pardon?
You said you asked our attorney?
No, I did not. Okay. Enhanced service expense. Can you tell me? What will that be? What does that mean?
Enhanced service expense. That honestly sounds like it's above my pay grade. But I would provide that enhanced service to you all, as far as I understand. And
what page are you on?
And the expense would be the company. IBTS would be paying me, not the city.
I was wondering what that would be billed under. I've never
Is that
heard
under
of
is that under the services agreement?
under the long 16, 18-page
Well,
agreement.
the services agreement makes no reference to that. I think that's what we signed, isn't it?
And while we're looking for that, Mike, if you could please, some of the services that you provide as far as the community development and planning, can you explain what some of the other cities that you're currently assisting here in the state of Oklahoma?
Okay, what we do is we augment some city services, building departments, and planning throughout the state of Oklahoma. We're currently in Bethany, Newcastle, El Reno, Sand Springs, Hennessy, Crescent, Broken Arrow, Perry, Anadarko, Tuttle, Rogers County, and we also did the plan reviews for Lindsay School District. And in Newcastle, that's pretty interesting, is we are actually training their personnel to get certified as building inspectors. And once they get certified, we leave.
Tim, I think it would be good to explain to the people here tonight or you can explain what this will cost the city, the citizens, for this service. They didn't get the same report we got.
The document is attached to the agenda item. What we're getting here tonight is a level of services that we currently do not have. You had asked something about, well, can't we just have a college graduate come up here and do this? And the answer is no. Nobody can just walk in and become a city planner. This young man has gone, like I said, he's got his master's degree in urban planning. It is very difficult to find. Ask our city engineer about he is desperately right now recruiting folks coming out of engineering school. I've got some family that are engineers, and it's desperately, they can pretty much go wherever they want. And the same thing pretty much is said for city planners as well, because they are in dire need as well. So these are specific skill sets in which, again, we're talking about a professional service agreement that allows us to utilize these services. And at some point, if we decide that this is not the direction we don't want to go, then we have a 60-day out where we can give notice and go a different direction if it chooses not to go there. I believe, like I said, we have some of the same clauses and things within the other professional services agreements we have with other folks, such as the city attorney, the city engineer, and some of those as well. But those are the type of things, like I said, and if you'd like, I mean, I can have Marty, would you like to come up here for a second and discuss? I mean, Marty Cook is familiar with what these. Marty Cook is our current community development manager, and go ahead and kind of explain the differences between the level of services that we currently have now and where we could go.
Well, and you know the difference is the professionalism, to be honest. This gentleman has an architectural background in his primary degree. He has a city planning degree for his second degree. Those are very specific titles. I do training all over the state for my department. I try to get better. I've been working on that for a lot of years. Stay in my department and try to get smarter every year and learn more every year. But this kid just came out of school with more knowledge than I can learn in the next 5 years, you know. And I think that professional service is important to us for the infrastructure downfalls that we have and for the development downfalls that we have faced with new subdivisions and new commercial and not being ready for that. This is exactly the thing we need to get in a better condition to handle that. Something a city planner is going to do is help us from the front end with developers to make sure that we're making wise decisions with infrastructure and development and drainage and water and sewer and all of these things in order to make the better decisions for the city. And that's something that we have failed in the past. I won't take all the blame, but I've been in the office when that has failed in the past, and I've seen it. So I think that we ask him to come in and write a comprehensive plan. He's going to help us work on our future land use map, long-term policies that'll put us operating in the right direction, and be able to help us develop our ordinances in a way that are actually going to continue to sustain that growth. And to be honest, I look forward to his help. Absolutely. We will be working together. I've got to visit with him already for about a half hour earlier. Seems like a smart kid. I think he's going to do okay. I'm going to teach him where to eat in Durant.
you know, which roads you can drive faster on than other roads. We'll show him around a little bit. He's going to teach me a lot about community development, to be honest. And in the meantime, I'm going to go be Public Works. Thank you, sir. And we're going to work together because I'm going to do infrastructure and he's going to show me where.
I don't doubt he's intelligent. I've talked to him before, too, and he's very smart. My question, I feel like that I didn't get answered, or I didn't answer it right. How much is it going to cost us as a city to contract with IBTS for this man's services?
Well, you see within the agreement itself, the very last page breaks out the cost. And what he's done is he's broke down the cost over the past 7.5 months. Now, these are for 2 full-time employees within the division. It's a total of, now I have to preface this by saying we will not be providing any health insurance. We will not be providing any retirement. That is all done through their company, just as similar what we do with Mr. Markham there. His firm is in charge of giving him his benefits, not the city. We just simply contract for services, and that's what these gentlemen will be doing. The total for the 2 of them, I want to say it's about $17,000 a month, and that includes all for, which is much less than probably what we're paying right now. Yeah. Out of respect for these gentlemen, I want to say for the level of services that we're about to receive, and I know the total for the rest of the remainder of this next fiscal year is $128,000. This is for 2 employees, by the way, not just for an employee, but for 2 employees, a building inspector and a city planner. And I can assure you we're going to get every penny out of this, because if we had to go to Dallas right now or go to Oklahoma City and find a firm, an architectural firm to come down here, Matt, I don't know what the going rate is right now on the hourly rate, but it's substantial for have them to travel back and forth to update our comprehensive plan and get that level of detail is substantial. So we had an opportunity. We had 2 folks that have stepped up to the plate. Marty Pope stepped up to the plate on the Parks and Rec side. Marty Cook has stepped up to the plate in our Public Works. We are not putting anybody out of a job. You've got Marty Cook right here telling you the benefits of having these folks here in our city.
Okay, so basically we're going to be paying $8,580.92 a month per employee for 7.5 months.
That is the agreement before you, and that includes all their benefits. That does not include us. Like I said, we are not paying any benefits.
They will provide who will they be responsible to?
They'll be responsible answering directly to me.
Budget-wise, is this, with this amount each month plus our current employees, the total community development, does this still put us within what our budget was?
Yes, we'll actually be under budget as far as the remainder of this year by bringing these folks in.
Enhance services and still save money.
Correct.
Any other comments, questions from council members for these gentlemen, for Marty, for the city manager?
Tim, explain that one more time, what you just said about the money part. Or is this even or?
With the shifts that we've made, sending Marty Cook and Marty Pope over to Public Works, there was some pretty substantial savings from the previous employees' salaries that were in those positions. So with the savings from that, as well as what the professional service agreement that's here right now, we will be under what we were actually budgeted for this year.
I would just comment that, I think Tim mentioned 2000 and when was the last strategic?
Our comprehensive plan, the last time it was updated was in 2002. And when we have developers come in here, and Marty can attest to this, he gets beat up like a pinball in here, especially when it comes to drainage. And that's the other thing, we would be working closely with Matt, is working with him and on our hydrology and some of the issues that we have here in town. That will be also a huge benefit to us as well, and having Matt work with our city engineer, Brandon Wall. So
Actually, I'll tell you too, and Matt shared with me, he's going to be going to CFM class, Certified Floodplain Manager class. Another asset to the city is he's getting paid by his boss to go take classes as well.
And one of the things I'd like to also bring forward, IBTS is a pretty large, they're actually a nonprofit group that was started, I forgot what year they started in, but they offer these services around the country. It's a model that is starting to catch on. And the thing that we have with Matt versus just hiring somebody off the street, Matt has a toolbox from his national office that allows him, if he has an issue or comes up with a thing here in Durant, where he can pick up the phone, send an email, say, have you guys ever seen anything like this? Because I need help. And that is something that will be essential for us as well, being able to have that toolbox and being able to go outside these walls and get the expertise, as well as our building officials as well.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I think from a legal standpoint and maybe from an operational standpoint, having someone that can come in and update the land use map and these other things will take a lot of pressure off of planning and zoning, will take a lot of pressure off the council, because when a developer or someone else that comes in that wants to use a particular piece of property for a purpose, and that's not reflected on the future land use map, everyone has to make exceptions, because the land use map's 15 years old. The land use map may not be accurate for what our current needs are. And so the planning and zoning is always in a position of having to make an exception. Well, if you make an exception for one person, it's difficult to understand why you can't make an exception for the next person. But if you've got an updated future land use map, that gives, with some thought that's gone into it and some professionalism, that's going to give planning and zoning and this council a lot to hang their hat on in making decisions, because those decisions have been sort of thought out and updated. So just from a legal standpoint, I think it puts the city on more solid ground when you've got continually updated, land use provisions and things like that, where planning and zoning or city offices aren't having to make those decisions on the fly on a case-by-case basis.
City attorney read my mind. I think I would say that, and I think I can speak for fellow council members even, that over the years, some of our biggest struggles are these planning and zoning issues that come before us, and I know they have to be a struggle for Marty. They may sound right, they may look right, but when we look at our future use and land use map, it's in contrast some of, or it goes against some of what's recommended. And I recall when we did that, and it was, I don't know, is that me? That could be me. That it's not the Bible, but it's a tool, and a very useful tool, a legal tool that allows the appropriate consideration from council and actually from the Planning and Zoning Commission and Community Development. So, and I recall that as a pretty expensive project. And to have someone, or the potential opportunity to have someone on staff and on board that we can work with on a daily basis just seems to have some value to me. And even though these numbers may represent a large dollar amount to some, I think if we were to look at a project cost of a future use plan, that we would see some pretty big numbers too. So, any more questions or comments for Tim or Marty or the gentleman?
I would just like to say, Marty, I think you've done a good job, even though you're just a good old boy from around here.
Thank you.
Do we know as far as estimated cost, if we were to contract out just to have someone come in to update the comprehensive plan, land use map, I know when we talked recently about the flooding issue and having someone come in and do that assessment, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this would be equivalent.
If you hired a firm to come in here to do what we're looking at having Matt do over the next 7.5 months, it would be several tens, if not, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the hourly rate for a good planner is right now, so I don't want to get. Go ahead.
Generally for communities of your size and for someone of my expertise and expertise that we have as a company, approximately $100 an hour. Yeah, at least.
At a minimum, $100 an hour. And then if you have multiple people working on it, and that doesn't include their drive time, they're going to charge you for their drive time, the hours it takes to get from the city or Dallas, wherever they're coming from. So like you said, the hydrology study alone was going to be well into the hundreds of thousands, I think, to do the entire city. Yeah. It was very expensive. So again, this is a contract for just 7.5 months. It allows us to test the waters to see if this is a firm that we feel good about staying in business with, and look at that when the next fiscal year comes around as far as the renewal.
Any further questions, discussion? Hearing none, are we at a time to consider a motion to enter into a professional services agreement?
Motion to approve 3F, the professional services agreement.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Yes.
Councilmember Groby,
No.
Councilmember Dills,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson,
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look
Thank you very
forward.
much. Look forward to working with everybody.
Thank you. Likewise. Item 3.9, consider acceptance of a 2017 U.S. Department of Justice Bulletproof Vest Partnership Grant, OJP-BVP 17, C-2017-69, in the amount of $13,519.31. Ms. Becca?
Okay. I'm happy to announce that we have received the grant from the U.S. Department of Justice to provide bulletproof vests for our police department. And with this funding, they should be able to purchase about 37 to 38 vests.
Wonderful. Any discussion, or are we ready for a motion to accept the money?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson,
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Becca. Takes us to item number 4, under public hearings. 4A, consider approval of ordinance 1837, requesting a rezoning from agriculture A1 to general residential R3 for property located, excuse me, at 803/805 Southeast 3rd. Now, I'll remind council and the audience that under this public hearing portion, that as we consider this, there'll be an appropriate time, excuse me, for anyone to be heard either in opposition to or in favor of this request. Marty.
Yes, good evening. So back in September, Mr. Walker filed an application requesting approval of a rezoning from agricultural to general residential. This property is located at 803/805 Southeast 3rd. This zoning request does meet all the requirements of the Durant zoning code. The Community Development Office has received one response in the form of a petition that was collected by a landowner pertaining to this rezoning request, and that is in your packet as well. The Planning Commission heard this case in October and voted to recommend approval with a 4-0 vote. This piece of property, as I've outlined on one of the maps, I'm trying to get to the right one, if you're unfamiliar with the area, is on the south side of the bridge at Leonard Morgan Park, headed out toward the complex. Georgia, the only street that travels east to west south of the bridge, it's on the corner of Georgia and Southeast 3rd. You probably haven't paid attention when you drove by. There's not a lot on that corner.
What size is that?
What size
Yeah.
is the lot?
Is
I don't
it-
know the actual square footage.
Is it an acreage?
But
Is
it's yeah, I don't know if it's actually acreage. It is big enough to handle a multi-story building or a couple duplexes, something like that. 0.82 of an acre. Sorry, I found it in my paperwork.
Marty, in the minutes, it says multiple times that he's going to build duplexes. Why does he want R3 instead of R2?
You know, and that's a lot of times people request that because R3 is right across the street. There's already R3 in the area. There's not any R2 in the area. And again, we talked about our future land use map, right? And if you look at our future land use map, there's a lot of R3 in that area, and then commercial abuts directly up to it. So there's not any R2 around it. R3 would make it available for a multifamily building bigger than a duplex, like a triplex or a quadplex. It doesn't change the requirements on the overall area or frontage that's required for a duplex. R2 and R3 are the same. So you still have to have 80-foot frontage, 8,000 square feet for a duplex in either zone. So really the only opportunity to go R3, the only difference that would make was if he wanted to create a triplex, quadplex, or if he wanted to do a multi-unit building. Yeah, absolutely.
He could do multi-story, right?
And you could do multi-stories in
Yeah.
R2 as well, 2 stories at least. But at the end of the day, he did mention duplex. I don't know if he's here tonight. He's from out of town. And so we'll find out in a minute if he's here to address that.
You said 0.82 of that? Something like that?
0.82 acres is what I have on my information. 3/4 of an acre. Which is going to give him enough, to be honest, if he splits it right, he could probably get 3 duplexes on there, depending on the layout. A couple facing Georgia, 1 facing Southeast 3rd, maybe.
I know R3, I think you're saying, is on the surrounding properties, but I think that's the objection of some of the folks is the R3. I think they were.
So if you look on your zoning map, which is the yellow and orange one, right? It'll have a hatched area that is currently yellow, which is ag, which is the portion we're talking about. Across the street to the north is orange, and to the west, a property away is orange. And those are the R3 properties that are currently R3. Again, I don't, you know, that's up to you guys. I just know that there's R3 in the area. And then the rest of that is all ag. Our future land use map actually shows that to all that agricultural to be commercial someday, which hasn't happened yet as well. So, but it also shows a high density residential in that general vicinity.
Any questions for Marty? Ladies and gentlemen? Is there anyone here to speak? We'll open up the public hearing portion. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or supporting this request? Anyone? Anyone in the audience? Anyone in the audience? Anyone in the audience? Okay. Hearing none for support or here in support of or to speak for, but do we have anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in the public hearing portion in opposition to this request? Yes, sir. And if you can come to this podium and state your name, sir, and your address and.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I am James Wayne Cotton, and I own the property at 807 Southeast 3rd. We were immediate adjacent to this proposed zoning change. I can't explain why it has never been rezoned correctly, other than it's been used It was used for agricultural purposes before the city annexed it, I think. But that was before my time. If he in fact does build, he had single-family homes there at the time we bought the property. And he's proposing now changing from single-family, and that's what is in that immediate area. All the people that's on that petition are all in single-family homes. They were not aware that they were in an R3 district themselves, those people that signed the petition. I think that was all zoned when the city annexed some of that. I don't know all that history, but it was a surprise to the people that signed the petition that they were in an area that was for multifamily housing, because we are all single-family housing, and that's what our petition is asking for, is that we don't rezone it to multifamily or duplex, because I think that will detract from the use of the land we have currently. It needs to go back with single-family housing. And that's what we would ask for.
Any questions for Mr. Cotton from council members? Thank you, Mr. Cotton.
Thank you.
Mr. Cotton, would
Yes.
this interfere with your home in any way?
It, well, would be visible from our home, and the renters that were in those houses before, they were rent houses. We became friends with almost all of them because it's just better in the neighborhood. But many of them needed a lot of help. And so we helped them, and we helped them maintain the property. The property was not well maintained before it burned down. And that concerns me with what the future use of that property might be.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Marty, where'd you go? Oh, there you are. I know there's the persons that requested this zoning are not here, I guess, but if indeed council were to this council member were to consider R2 or R1 versus the R3 request, we can do that, as I understand it.
Yes, because
City Attorney, you might help me here.
You're producing a more restrictive zone than what was advertised for. And Mr. Markham, that's what we've always understood.
Okay.
Couldn't go the other direction.
I mean, we could literally have a motion for the R1 or R2, vote on it,
Absolutely.
and that's what it is.
Absolutely, absolutely. We would notify the petitioner, and that's what it would be till next time that he tried to rezone it or whatever.
Okay. Any further questions for Marty and council members? Open the floor for a motion.
I'm not a fan of R3. I think I probably got that from our former mayor, but so I move to approve ordinance 1837 for R1 property.
Section 1.
Section 1. Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ordinance 1837 for R1, Section 1. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Ruby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Marty. Thank you.
Section 2.
Oh, I'm
Move
sorry.
to approve Section 2.
Second.
Motion and a second for the emergency clause, Section 2. The clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Ruby, Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you, council. Takes us to the information items. Item number 5. Now we've got several of the department heads here. Do any of the council members wish to have any of the reports given by the department heads? And just for the audience's sake, the department heads provide the council, the city manager, with monthly reports, projects done, completed, fire runs to police arrest, et cetera, water treatment, et cetera. And we appreciate that. It doesn't go unnoticed, guys, gals. It's good information. It's that we like to look at. But do any council members have a request for any reports to be given? If not, then we will go to item number 6. Under citizen comments on non-agenda items, citizens wishing to address the council regarding matters which are not listed on the agenda will be required to sign up no later than 5 minutes prior to the scheduled starting time of the meeting. The sign-in sheet will contain space for the citizen's name, address, phone number, and topic to be discussed. In this way, city staff will be able to follow up on any issues presented if necessary. We have one individual that is signed up to speak, Mr. Billy Jones, and he is with the Fraternal Order of Police. Is Billy still here? There he is right there.
Mayor, Council, City Administration. Good evening. I'm Billy Jones. I'm the current president of the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge 113 in Durant. This is my 4th term as president over the past 20 years, and each time I feel honored to be elected. I was asked to address the council on behalf of the Lodge by a vote of the members at our October meeting. We want the council, city administration, and citizens of Durant to understand that individuals' opinions do not reflect the Lodge as a whole. The Lodge respects each member's rights to speak their opinion and execute the First Amendment right to do so. Though our opinions may seem indifferent and give the perception that we are divided, the Lodge wants the citizens of Durant and those traveling through to understand that we will continue to protect this city with vigilance, compassion, and integrity as a team. Though some members speak of morale and adequate working conditions, we continue to provide service in a professional manner and continue to work with management to resolve these issues. Just like a family, we cry together, we bleed together, and we fight like brothers and sisters. But in the end, we will still hold our values to protect and serve. Don't let our internal conflict and differences in opinion reflect the way our organization is viewed. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Jones. I won't elaborate other than to say that this council respects our men and women in blue and differing opinions. We respect that. So thank you, and thank you to all of you that serve. Okay, if there are no objections from council, we'll recess out of regular session rather than go into executive session at this time. We can take care of the utilities and the airport if there are no objections. Entertain a motion to recess.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to recess out of regular session. The clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby. Aye. Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, we are recessed out of regular session. Does anybody need a break? Okay. You good? Let the record show it's 7:48. I'll call to order the regular monthly meeting of the Durant City Utilities Authority of November the 14th, 2017. Ask the Secretary to call the roll, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Here.
Trustee Groby.
Here.
Trustee Dills.
Here.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock.
Here.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Here. For the record, all members are present. We have a quorum. First order of business, consent items, 1A. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none. Secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne,
Aye.
Trustee Ruby,
Here. Aye.
Trustee Dills,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 2 requires no action. Item 3, under administration. Consider approval of a request for authorization to purchase for the 2017 Force Main Line relocation project in the amount of $647,580 and 75 cents.
Yes.
RFAP number 2018-86. Marty?
All right, back with you one more time. So all 6 or 5 or 6, how many items do I have? All of these items that you're going to see on the Utility Authority tonight that came from my office are relating to one singular project. Probably we can forego the speech for every item. They're all for the Highway 78 Forced Mainline Relocation Project. This first one is going to be the RFAP for the total amount to relocate and engineer, design, construction services, bidding, the whole package. This is going to pay for the whole system. A little bit of history. This line has needed to be relocated for the last few years. We were notified by ODOT that it had to be done so they could do some future expansion of Highway 78. We knew it was coming. It was in the budget. We've kind of hung around longer than we should have on it, and it's time to move forward. So I've got it all before you tonight. Be happy to answer any questions as we go.
Marty, in advance, thank you for your due diligence on this.
Yes, sir.
And getting it to us. What's the trustee's pleasure? Item 3A.
Move to approve 3A.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne,
Aye.
Trustee Ruby,
Aye.
Trustee Dills,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 3B, consider approval of contract C-2017-68 for professional services to be provided by Barker and Associates for the 2017 Forced Main Line Relocation Project for engineering, design, bidding, and construction administration. Marty?
And again, for the same project, the RFAP you just approved was broke down into engineering, design, construction, and then actual construction costs. So this is the section for the paperwork for Barker Engineering to take care of engineering, design, bidding, construction administration, and inspection of this project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the Secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne,
Aye.
Trustee Ruby, Trustee Dills,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 3C, consider acceptance and award of bid for 2017 Force Main Line Relocation Project along South Highway 78.
So in the bidding process that we took care of, had 7 bidders. The bid tab sheets are there for you to look at. The lowest bid for construction was $708,093.75, and that's the construction portion, not including engineering.
Say again, Marty, the amount.
$608,093.75.
Okay, I thought I heard you say. And I apologize, I thought I heard you say 7.
Okay, to make sure I articulated correctly. Sure.
Don't be using my word.
I'm trying to remember, did we move this before and now we're moving it again?
Different portion. So first we moved the part around the bypass. This is from the bypass to Davis.
Gotcha. Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? And we're counting on Engineer Barker to bring us in under that number, I think.
Oh, absolutely. We'll save money everywhere we can.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Secretary will record the vote, please.
Aye.
Trustee Ruby?
Aye.
Trustee Bills?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock?
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson?
Aye, motion carries. Item 3D is to consider approval of the contract C-2017-67 with Steve Bean Construction Company for the 2017 Force Main Line relocation project contingent upon legal counsel review and approval of contractor bonds and complete contract.
Okay, a lot of big words. What we did is we approved the money, then we awarded the bid. This is actually to approve to pay the people the bid that we already awarded them the money to, if that didn't confuse you. At the end of the day, the contingencies, Mr. Mayor, and we'll get into that on the next item as well, there are multiple places in the construction document for the chairman to sign, and we would need to do those individually paced based on your attorney's visit against the bonds and whatnot.
Okay. And when we talk about legal counsel,
We're talking about
our own-
Mr. Warren.
Okay.
Or whoever we decide. It doesn't have to be him, but I would assume that's his job.
Okay, but we're on 3D.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne?
Aye.
Trustee Ruby?
Aye.
Trustee Bills?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock?
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson?
Aye, motion carries. And item 3E, consider authorization for the chairman to sign all related documents pertaining to contract C-2017-67 for the 2017 Force Main Line relocation project.
And again, this is just to give you that permission. You're going to have to sign 2 or 3 different days, and we didn't want to have a council meeting in between each signature. So,
Move to approve.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne?
Aye.
Trustee Ruby?
Aye.
Trustee Bills?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock?
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson?
Aye, motion carries.
thank you, guys.
Thank you, Marty, again. Item number 4, I think we asked for reports earlier. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. The secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne?
Aye.
Trustee Ruby?
Aye.
Trustee Bills?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock?
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson?
Aye, motion carries. We are adjourned out of the Utilities Authority. Let the record show it's 7. Oh, how are you? Are we? Did we get transitioned a while ago? That kind of.
Yeah, I wasn't quite as fast as one there.
Okay. For the record, it's 6:51. Call to order the regular monthly meeting of the Durant Airport Authority, November the 14th, 2017. Ask the secretary to call the roll, please.
Trustee Hawthorne?
Here.
Trustee Ruby?
Here.
Trustee Bills?
Here.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock?
Here.
Chairman Tomlinson?
Here, for the record, all members are present. We have a quorum. First order of business, consent items, 1A. Entertain a motion to,
So moved.
motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, secretary will record the vote.
Trustee Hawthorne?
Aye.
Aye. Trustee Bills?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock?
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson?
Aye, motion carries. Item 2 requires no action. Item 3 requires no action. Under item number 4A, under administration, consider approval of request for authorization to purchase RFAP number 2018-85 in the amount of $26,788 for the purchase of a complete upgrade kit for the celiometer located at Eaker Field. Did I say that right?
I wanted to hear you say it. That's why I put it in there. You're lucky I didn't put the brand because it's a Vaisala celiometer.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah.
You had it over
in the memo.
Letter, yeah.
So our celiometer's been out. Lightning struck it. We've been through the insurance process for whatever reason. We've dotted our I's and crossed our T's, but we need a new one. So we had some money in the budget that was set aside for this actually a couple years ago, and it's time that we use that. This money was the right amount. We found one. This is the only company that makes celiometers especially the Vasala brand. You can only get them in one place. And so what we're going to do is we're not only going to get the new meter, we're going to upgrade what we have. They don't build the CT25 anymore. Now we're going to get the CL31. It's kind of an upgrade at the same time. But this is a full kit. They'll come out and install it after we get it here. It'll take, a couple of days probably to get it up and running. And then it'll be very important equipment for the airport. So we wanted to get that through as quick as we could.
So this is to purchase, install, everything?
There will have to be an electrician come out and do some work that we'll have to pay. We'll do it out of the facility maintenance budget. But this is for the kit itself and the professionalism to go along with that.
Does it have a warranty?
Yes. And we're going to insure it. I've already spoken to our city clerk.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Marty. I know we've talked about this in multiple airport meetings, and he comes to one meeting and gets it fixed on the next council meeting. So kudos to you. Good job.
Good job. Thank you, Dr. Danny Craig, for your service too. We had a motion, we had a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Secretary will record the vote, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. I think Dwayne left. Yeah. Anything under new business? Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn out of airport. The Secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne,
Aye.
Trustee Ruby. Aye. Trustee Bills.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. We are adjourned. Entertain a motion to reconvene in regular city council session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to reconvene. The clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Ruby. Aye. Councilmember Bills.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. We are reconvened into regular session, which takes us to item number 7 on our agenda. And I want to take just a minute tonight. I apologize that I really didn't do this earlier, but this meeting tonight we're going to dedicate to Michael Cobb's memory. Michael was a city employee who passed away unexpectedly last Monday, I believe, and was laid to rest on Saturday. And I think he was with us 3+ years, and the folks that he worked with in the city will miss him and his service, and we lift his family up as we think about Michael. As we go into executive session, we are going to, for those in the live stream audience, this will conclude tonight's live stream audience. We're going to have a motion to go into executive session, and then we'll be meeting in executive session for a period of time and come back out and take care of that and then adjourn. But this will conclude, as I understand, our live stream portion. Okay, we are at item number 7. Entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. The clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Ruby. Aye. Councilmember Bills.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. We are going into executive session. We'll be a little bit.